And speaking of interviews, how is your interview style similar to your father's, and how is it different?
I really pride myself on my research, the same as my dad did. My dad had an amazing system of how he compiled information about his subjects. He would read all 4 New York newspapers every day, and all the magazines from People to Time and Life and Entertainment Weekly, and he would just rip out articles on different actors. If someone was written about in the New York Times, he ripped it out. He would send it to a friend of our family's in Portland, Oregon, who would file all of the clippings by name, and then when my dad would sit down with Andy Garcia, he would send him the Andy Garcia folder that had 10 years of clippings in it. Now I have the internet, so I don't have to rip out random articles over my reading newspapers. But the internet is tricky, so you never know what's 100% on there, and it's also, everybody has it now, you know, everybody has access to it now. So I really pride myself on research and consuming as much of a subject's material as possible. Today I'm interviewing Penelope Cruz, and before you guys came in here, I was on the internet looking up old Penelope Cruz interviews. I just watched a piece she did with Charlie Rose, and she spoke at length about her love of dancing when she was a child. So I can come in and maybe ask her something about that, because now these movies, they're doing so many interviews. Sometimes you're interview number 68 out of 350. So how do you stand out? How do you have that one little nugget that lets them know, oh, okay, he came prepared. I'm going to be a little bit more present in this interview. And you see it with, you mentioned I cover a lot of these studio movies. I just went to London to cover Snow White and the Huntsman. Charlize probably does, I don't know, 5,000 interviews over the course of 6 months promoting that movie, from Comic-Con and WonderCon to Show West, to all these different events and then premieres all over the world. We're talking about travel. When these big movies roll out, they do premieres in every corner of the globe. So how do you stand out when you're one of 5,000 interviews? And it's by doing your homework. It's by maybe referencing an older movie they've done that you've stayed up at, and watched late one night. Maybe it's referencing an interview that they did that you saw them do, and just something to get them to kind of break out of the mold a little bit. So that's where I relate to my dad. My dad really instilled that in me early, and I saw it firsthand with his crazy process, and I saw how it paid off when you pulled out that little nugget that had people kind of surprised. It really warms them up to you and gives you a better interview. And I think we're different in the sense of he never worked for these types of outlets. He covered for more traditional hard news outlets. He worked at NBC in New York for many years, and Channel 11 in New York, and I'm working in more the celebrity space. So sometimes my interviews are a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit more fun and goofy. And I remember Russell Brand came to our offices at the E! Channel once and gave me an entire makeover and put me the nail polish and the hair and the skinny jeans and the whole thing. They're just, so I feel like I'm playing to a different kind of audience than my dad has over the years. And so you kind of keep that in mind when you conduct your interviews.
Well, you talk about how your interviews are fun and lighthearted. What about the rare instance, and no names involved, but where someone becomes a little combative, and maybe it's nothing you've done, maybe it's their own issue? Is there a way that you can kind of smooth things out and still keep the cameras rolling?
I'll give you a good story for that. It happened with me and Jamie Foxx on a movie, on Jarhead. Remember he did that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and Peter Sarsgaard, and Jamie was just in real Jamie Foxx mode. He had his sunglasses on, he was on his phone, I was asking questions, he was talking to his friend. I said, listen, Jamie, I have a 79 Brougham outside. That's a reference to the type of car that they drove in The Great White Hype, which he had a supporting role. I don't know if it was 79 or 70, whatever it was. I just mentioned the car from The Great White Hype, and he paused, took the sunglasses off, put the phone down, and was like, all right, let's do an interview. And if you just, again, pull out that little nugget that shows you've done your homework and you're a professional and you're there to, help them promote their movie and ask them intelligent questions, they usually respond. But oftentimes, a lot of people in my position don't remember that the people they're sitting opposite from are people. They've got real shit in their life. They have broke up with their girlfriend last night, or their mom is sick, or they have a painter coming to redo their kitchen, and they're like real people. So you talk to them, they're like they're real people, and they usually respond in a pleasant way. I found that sometimes some of my colleagues will go in and kind of treat them as sound bites and not respect that they have a private life or a personal life. And I don't know, in the Woody Allen movie last night, it was interesting. Roberto Benigni's character is a middle-class guy in Rome, and all of a sudden he walks out of his apartment and there's 200 paparazzi taking pictures of him and asking him the most innocuous, mundane questions of, what did you eat for breakfast this morning? And he's like, I had some toast. And just showing that he's a real person, but why we put these people up on pedestals, sometimes we treat them differently. And I think it's important that, yes, someone's insanely talented or beautiful or amazing at their craft, but they're a real person. So talk to Christopher Nolan. Yes, he's a genius as a filmmaker, but talk to him like he's a normal guy, and he'll respond in a way that's rather candid, as opposed to giving you the kind of regular soundbite, if you will.